Hi, everybody. Parnell Woodard with another episode of the Pivot Point. Today, I'm very excited to bring to you a guest and a colleague of mine from a number of years ago, Lisa Colantuano. I hope I got that right.
You did very well.
And Lisa is with AAR Partners, and we'll talk a little bit about her background in a minute. She started her own business back in 2005, as well, a business called Access Confidential. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. So, Lisa, take a minute, give me kind of a little backdrop on yourself and how you got into the agency search side of things.
Gosh, that's more than a minute, but all right, let me see if I can sum this up. So, believe it or not, oh gosh, I went years ago, went to college for architecture and somehow wound up in advertising. I'm not really sure how that happened, other than that I couldn't do the math for architecture. And I was going to go into the creative side of things. So I really wanted to be a writer, believe it or not. Somehow I wound up in media planning. I'm telling you, my whole career path, I had something planned and totally something else
That
went on,
agency
right?
world can get a little crazy. Yes, it can.
Exactly. So everything I planned went completely 180. So it is what it is. You make plans and God laughs. So there you go. Then I wound up in media planning at Young Rubicam when it was, rest in peace, Y&R. But I did media planning. In fact, I did print planning for Philip Morris. I'm really starting to date myself now. And then from there, I left there to start, believe it or not, I started a little lullaby CD, a business in terms of recording a lullaby CD for infants, which still exists today, called Classical Cradle. I play the piano, and I decided I wanted to create a lullaby CD for infants and sell the CD, and so I did. I left Y&R to finish a master's degree program and at the same time get this CD off the ground. And it was a lot of fun, a lot more work than I anticipated, as you never really think about everything when you go into business or start a business, right?
That's for sure.
And then oh gosh, I don't know, 2001, I think it was, yeah, it was 2001, 3, 4, 5 months before 9/11, unfortunately. Long story short, a student in one of my classes that I was teaching, I taught college for 16 years, gave my resume to the head of HR at DDB at the time. And Vicky, who was wonderful, met with me and said, I'd love to hire you right now, but we're just not hiring. Everything's frozen. And everything was frozen. You have to remember, we were in a terrible downturn. And I just kept getting that same thing. Even Y&R said, we'd take you back in a second, but I just can't right now. Okay. So I kept hitting that. And then finally, Vicky had said, look, I know a woman that has an agency search consultancy. She knows all the agencies and all the players and what's going on. And if there's anybody that knows when somebody might be hiring, it would be Leslie. So I shrugged my shoulders and said, okay, fine, I'll meet with Leslie. I met with Leslie. I can't even express the polarizing personality that Leslie has. Within 20 minutes of me saying 5 words and her 500 words, I got a job. And so she had said, come and work here. And the only reason why I'm hiring you is because, and she circled the Classical Cradle CD and said, it's not about your experience at Y&R. I don't need that. I need somebody who's innovative and could think and could solve problems and business challenges. And that's exactly what I did when I created a CD and started that little side business, if you will. And that's how it started. Quite frankly, not a clue what the hell she did. Not a clue. Okay, I got a job. I don't know what she does. I have no idea what I'm doing, but okay. That was as of this June 4th, I think it is. It will be 24 years.
Yeah. Wow. And so that was at AAR.
And that was AAR Partners, which is an agency search consultancy. AAR Partners was Believe it or not, I'll cut this as short as I can, but the long and short of it is, it was founded by a woman in London in 1975, Lindy Payne, and it was actually called Advertising Agency Registry. And it was a very clever idea, which was go back in time, no internet, no real computers, right? How do you get information other than read books or the trades? So she had a great idea, which was, you know what? I'll collect all information from agencies. I'll store everything. And I will be a shortcut to the shortlist. So marketers can come to me as a qualified resource where they can come in the door. They know what they're looking for, have a sense of what they're looking for, and I will be the library center. And then I will be the knowledge base that I can help them get to that shortlist in a quick, confidential manner. That's how it started. That's how AAR started. And then she brought the idea here to the United States in 1980. She met Leslie, who I eventually became Leslie's business partner after, I think, 4 years of working with her and learning the ropes. And then we co-founded and started a whole other business called Access Confidential, which, quite frankly, I forgot it was 2005. So thank you for reminding me how fast time goes. But that's sort of the background and how I got to where I am, and a long far cry from architecture and being a copywriter.
Yeah, it's so funny how so many of us have different paths in our careers, and I founded my first company, Emerge. It was June of 2001. It was 3 months before 9/11, and
Right.
But and you have a different path into that kind of that entrepreneurial space because you weren't working at the time. You were looking for something. And when I work with people and help them understand and learn about business ownership and entrepreneurialism, everybody's at different places. Some people
Yeah.
are out of work and looking. Some
Right.
people are in corporate America and they're just frustrated, right?
Right.
They're done, right? What's next for me? So, as you think about Access Confidential a little bit, was there something that maybe kind of triggered you to say, we need to build this tool or this resource or this asset because the industry didn't have it? What was the driver behind the creation of it?
Well, listen, I think that's the driver: solving a problem, right? Solving some kind of problem. Or if it's something that pisses you off so much, right, and you have a better solution, that's the impetus for starting anything, starting a business, creating a product. I mean, why did I start the CD? Why did I record the CD, I should say? Because there was really nothing out there that had classical acoustic piano music in the form of lullaby medleys. And that solved a problem because there's a profound impact on child development when they listen to acoustical classical music. So that's what that was about. In terms of Access Confidential, yeah, there was a problem. The problem was there was nothing. I mean, we competed with Red Books and we competed with The List at the time, but there was nothing that really had more. In other words, going into a database to get client contact. So agencies are always looking to prospect and pitch. I mean, that's new business. But it's tough to get these names and titles and email addresses and phone numbers and what have you. It's just not that simple. And there were some ways about it. Remember, there was no LinkedIn.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was no
We barely had
databases,
Google
right?
and Yahoo and all that. Yeah.
I mean, there was internet existed for, I don't know, 10 years already, give or take, but there was nothing of the sort of what we have today. Nothing. So the list was there, and the list was doing something very similar, but it was missing, or we felt that what was missing was a much more comprehensive view. In other words, you don't just email somebody. You have to have a sense of who they are in order to hopefully grab their attention, right? This notion of these mass emails and dear Joe Blow or, dear CMO. No, it's just, you're not going to get anywhere. Right? They know they're a number and they feel uncomfortable with that. Or they just feel that you don't care about them, put it that way. They're just a number. So we decided, all right, we want a comprehensive data center. We want not just the titles and names and email addresses, but we want to give you a dossier on that person. Who is that person? What's a little bit of their background, a couple of lines about them. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember all the details anymore. That's 20 years ago. But it got into a much more broad, comprehensive offering rather than just contact information. And that's how it started. And of course, like any good idea, it blossoms from there. Then we got into all these reports to help agencies when to reach out. It was all about timing, right?
Yeah.
And so we ended up building out, 8, 9, 10, a dozen different types of reports within the data center to help agencies figure out what's the best time to reach out, or when might there be something brewing for them. It's not just about, okay, we hired a new CMO. Everybody runs after the new CMO. And that's not the best way to prospect. I mean, we all know that. We all fall into the trap, but we all know that. So we started building out reports that was based on certain variables that led to more opportunities at the right time. Okay, so it just blew up into a lot more than what we had planned on, which is another interesting thing that happens when you start a business.
Yeah.
You sort of have this one vision of, okay, I'm going to solve this problem, and then it just keeps exploding. You almost have to learn when to say when.
And also when to say no, right? Because you can extend yourself too far in certain circumstances and stretch yourself out.
Absolutely.
So you moved out of the agency world, a little bit of that kind of corporate security blanket. Did you miss that at any point in time? Did you miss the security of and I know nowadays the agency world, and even 20 years ago or 30 years ago in the agency world, there wasn't a whole lot of security per se, but there was some, right? You felt like if you were in McCann or Y&R or, any of the big agencies, you had a certain level of security. Now you're out kind of on your own. Did you miss that security? Did it scare you?
It's fair. I remember seeing this question and thinking, I am such a risk-averse person.
Interesting.
I really, truly am. Like, I can't stand being in the market. It makes me nauseous, right? So, in fact, my financial advisor argues with me. We have argument. I'm like, no, hey, just take me out. Take me out. Take me out. Like, I don't want to be in it, right? I'm that risk averse. Yet somebody said to me, so let me understand something. You're this risk averse, but at the same time, you ran a business. You own your own company. It doesn't quite meld, right?
How did you get over that hump?
Right.
Yeah.
My answer was, I'm more in control owning my own business. I can't control the market, but I can control my own business.
And you can control how you respond.
Exactly. Right. And I think that's what I love about owning a business. Now, remember, I didn't just come in and start a business all on my own. I walked into a pre-existing business. AAR was there. Now, truth be told, it wasn't doing so hot at that time in 2001. In fact, things were changing rapidly. And go back to what I said, Leslie circled that, well, you started this, CD thing and you're innovative, tells me you're innovative. Well, that's exactly what happened. Now, I'm not going to take full credit for anything, but the two of us, me bringing some new life into it and new thinking and not knowing what a search consultancy was, I really had not a clue. I know I joke about it, but I had not a clue. And as I started to put the pieces together and learn, and then we're all of a sudden 4 years later building out this massive data center for agencies to help with new business, you just start coming at things from as fresh of a perspective as possible. But you're in control and you're not in control. I mean, it's both. You're in control of being as creative as you could be. You're in control of speaking to as many people as you can and listening to them carefully, right? Understanding what keeps them up at night. Keeping your ear to the ground to the environment, the market itself, right? It just keeps changing and keeps changing and changing. And nothing stays the same forever. We all know that. And you're in control of those things. You're in control of how much sacrifice.
You want to make, sure.
Look, people say it to me all the time. So you own a business? Yeah. What's it like? This is 24/7. 24/7. I don't care what you own. It's 24/7. If you really want that business to succeed, that business is your child that never grows up. That's what it is.
When you made that leap and so you join AAR, they're in a little bit of a precarious position. Did you get any pushback from family, friends, colleagues? Did they say, Lisa, what are you doing? Did you feel like there was any pressure from the people around you to do that? Or not to do that, I should.
Not at all. In fact, again, I did step into a job, so to speak, right? I was getting a paycheck, but then it got into, because we started this other company, then it got into, we can't pay ourselves, right? So that, and yeah, I got questioning from friends, close friends, or some family, I guess, at one point, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You could go to Y&R, you could go back to Y&R and make triple the amount of money, and like, I know, but there was a fire in me. And I honestly think you either have the entrepreneurial spirit or you don't. I mean that. Like, I've grew up with family members, many family members that own businesses. My uncles owned a restaurant called Stallone's. That's my mother's maiden name. Yes, I'm related to Sylvester Stallone. That's for another day. And I've watched, them run restaurants as I was a kid. And then another uncle was an attorney and had a law practice. And another cousin owned a court stenography business. So I guess I kind of grew up in that mindset.
I find that when people are surrounded by it, it's an easier comprehension for them as they grow up, and that transition from, I don't want to say corporate America or even out of school, is a little bit easier because they've been surrounded by it. So they have an understanding and a set of expectations in terms of what they're going to get with.
Yes, absolutely. And I tiptoed into it. See, that's the difference. I will not say, I don't know if I'm not as entrepreneurial, but, I give a lot more credit to the guy that quits cold, has zero income coming in, and starts from scratch. I mean, that's a hard thing to do. It is. Like, when I left corporate America to finish school, I was distracted by finishing a master's degree. And then I started this hustle on the side, right? Or this side thing on whatever it was, the CD thing, right? So it wasn't my main focus. It was a secondary focus. Then when I got into AAR, really I had a job, right, for the first few years. And then it got into, well, the business is changing. It wasn't doing so great. We had to start thinking innovatively, start changing things, and we were. As I was learning, I was also trying to figure out how to breathe new life into the business. And then this whole idea about Access Confidential hits. And now we start this business, and now I'm tiptoeing into truly owning a business. I didn't even know what was happening because it was just happening. So in one way, I didn't dive into the pool at first. Everybody gradually went in.
Those that get into it, everybody kind of gets into it in different ways. Were there resources or mentors or people that had a big impact on your ability to be successful?
I have to give credit to my father. I have watched my whole life. Is he a workaholic? Yeah, I guess so. But work ethics, very, very, very strong. Now, he was a poll guy for Bell Atlantic that turned into NYNEX, that turned into Verizon, that turned into whatever. But he worked hard, and he worked a lot of hours, and I saw that. And I saw that, and I certainly saw my uncles, cousins, whatever, who own businesses, and they were almost like these influences without realizing they were influences in terms of you work, you have great work, you have to have great work ethics, period end. And if you really are going to be successful at anything, well, you have to be focused, right? So I guess my surrounding, the people that the people that you surround yourself are the people that you eventually become.
That is very true. There's Alex, I think his last name is Hormuzzi, has a great quote, and he said, "Don't listen to the people around you, listen to the people where you want to go."
Yes.
And I think it's really profound, right? If you surround yourself with people who are just want to stay in, their nice corporate little bubble, well, that's the support and that's the counsel you're going to get from those people. If you surround yourself with people who are successful business owners, entrepreneurs, what have you, then that's where you want to go, right? Those are the people you want to surround yourself with.
You become who you are who you tell me your friends and I'll tell you who you are, and it's that.
Do you think that, in terms of having a business and being in business for yourself, do you think there's any misconceptions people have, when they start out, that they feel like, well, I'm going to do my own thing, and, they have these certain ideas in their head about how it's going to be, or how liberating it's be. What do you think some of those misperceptions?
Yeah, I think that you just said it. It's going to be liberating, and it's going to be freedom, and I can do what I want. And no, you know what? You're always owned by something, right? I mean, there's no such thing that you can do whatever you want. You can go on vacation whenever you want. No. In fact, I probably shouldn't say this, but I don't think I've taken a real vacation in 25 years.
Ouch.
I take time off.
And I was going to ask you about work-life balance in a little bit. Sounds
Forget
like
about
you might
it.
want to work on that a little.
The intent, forget about it. And it's not that I don't take time off, and it's not that I don't, decompress or unplug or whatever. But as I said before, you have a child that never grows up, and you have to take care of that child almost 24/7. Is it liberating? I guess it depends on your definition, right? Look, there were moments, honestly, Parnell, I could tell you a story when I really thought we were going to fold up. I thought, this is it. It's over. No joke. I laid down on the floor in the office. I stared at the ceiling and basically said, what the F am I doing? I had two choices. You either give up and throw in the towel and say, that's it, I'm not doing it anymore. Or you pick yourself up off the dusty floor and you say, come hell or high water, I'm going to do this.
Yeah. I used to.
And that's all there is to it. I mean, you asked me if there was anything else that influenced me other than people. There's a poem that I have in my room. I actually should hang it over my desk. And it's by Edgar Guest. And it's called Don't Quit. That's what it's called. And it's nothing more than success is failure inside out. And when you think you're so far and you think you're gonna just fall to pieces, it's only around the corner that what you worked so hard for is ready to stare at you in the face.
I used to have a colleague of mine when I had my agency. He said he would just say, just don't die.
Just don't die.
And it was it was an analogy. It was the same thing. It was don't quit, right? Because if you quit, then you lose. Then you fail.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard, but like you said, you got up off the floor and you went ahead and you did it. Was there anything in terms of running a business that turned out to be easier or harder than you thought it would be?
Keeping the money coming in. That's always a hard part.
It was harder. Okay. How about easier?
Didn't think it was that hard to hire and fire. I know that sounds terrible, but I had a particular question that helped me to sort of wade through, which was, if you could write your own job description that would be perfect for you, what would it say? I didn't ask all these other ridiculous questions. Where do you want to be in 15 years? And what do you want to do? Like, who cares? Nobody knows anything anymore. Everybody's all over the place. And nobody knows what's going to happen 5 years from now, let alone 5 minutes from now.
There's a reason why the rearview mirror is smaller than the windshield, right?
Yeah, right, exactly, right, exactly. So that question helped me to just loosen them up and have a conversation.
Yeah.
And then I could figure out where they fit. There were times that they were talking about this particular job description that we were hiring for, and then all of a sudden it hit me like, you know what? There's something coming, and I think you'd be better for that.
Yeah.
So I didn't find it that difficult to hire. I also didn't find it that difficult to fire. I know that sounds terrible, but in fact, when we had an office in Florida at one point, got to it, I don't know how this happened, but when Lisa was coming down, somebody was getting fired. I was like, that's not the case at all.
I gotcha. I gotcha. So we talked a little bit about work-life balance or lack thereof. Do you have any boundaries or strategies that you just are hard and fast by to allow yourself some time to decompress, to step away, to turn off, to be able to, because it takes a lot of energy, right, to have a business and to run your own business. And you've got to have a little bit of that time to decompress. So what kind of things do you do on that front?
I don't.
Walk, exercise, jog. It sounds like you still play piano quite a bit.
I do. Yeah, that is my therapist. There's no doubt about it. Piano is my therapist. It always will be. I taught for 25 years at one point. When I was 15, I started teaching piano lessons, and I taught all the way through college and what have you. But meanwhile, the piano turned into my therapist. I escape. Everything around me disappears for a half hour or 20 minutes or whatever it might be. And quite frankly, the other part, my faith. I pray every morning. Every morning when I wake, well, maybe not, I'm lying. I shouldn't lie, but most mornings, I'll say most mornings, right? I wake up, and as my eyes start to open, I start going through this cycle of prayers. And it's meditative. And it just hopefully prepares me for the day. Some days are worse than others. But those are my two things. It's God and my gift from God. And I mean that.
Way to look at that. Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about a good day, because, you've been in this business for a while. You've struggled. You've had your highs. You've had your lows.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a specific moment or a milestone that makes you stop and that you can think about and you say, this is why I do what I do. This is why I love what.
Yes. When I love to teach. I absolutely love to teach. That's what I figured out after all these years. What is it that people say, what do you love to do? I finally figured out I love to teach. I was a piano teacher for 25 years. I was a college professor for 16 years. I obviously loved I tutored math when I was, in high school and through college. I tutored math. I obviously am a teacher at heart. And what I do here at AAR Partners as an agency search consultant, I'm teaching. I'm still teaching. I'm teaching agencies in terms of new business. I'm teaching marketers in terms of how to search for the right agency. I'm trying to put the two together. When agents, both parties, when either party basically says, that was the best hour, or you taught me so much, I didn't realize that, you made an impact where I thought I was going to fall to pieces, and you changed my world around, or whatever it might be. That's what does it. In fact, recently, I met with an agency last week, I think it was, and they were in my office here, and we spent an hour or so together, and then I met them later for dinner, and we spent a good amount of time together, probably like 3 hours that day. And they posted on LinkedIn, fantastic day in New York City with Lisa, and what an impactful day. We got so much out of it. And I forwarded it and said, now this is what gets me energized.
Yeah.
That's what it is. What gets me energized is when I'm able to help another. And that's really what it is. It has nothing to do with a title or how many years you're doing something or your position. It really is the heart of the mission. And the heart of my mission is, I like to think, helping people on both sides of the table.
It's fascinating. I talk to people in all kinds of different spaces and categories and businesses, and there's always that current of helping people that kind of underlies so many of the things that we do. It's just in so many different ways.
Yeah.
Is there, as you look back on your journey, is there one thing that you can think about that maybe you would have done differently early on as you look back at your kind of business building career?
Funny, funny you should say you got to take more time off. Or I probably would have taken a little more time off, or taken advantage of some of the experiences that were offered to me. And it was always, oh, I got to work. Oh, I got to work. Oh, I got to work. That's just who I am. Now, to be fair, I love what I do.
Why?
So work to me doesn't feel like work. And when I taught college, I used to say that all the time to my students. Here's the key to life. Do what you love and you won't work a day in your life. Period. End. That's how it works, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You do that, you could easily work 7 days a week and it won't bother you.
Is that the piece of advice you would give to younger Lisa, if you could? Find more time, take more time.
Yes, as much as I love working because I love what I do, I would say get out of your shell a little bit, right? And go put yourself into some experiences that you just wouldn't have otherwise done, right, on your own, right?
It's important to get outside that comfort zone. It's really important. It helps you grow.
Zone. Right.
It really does.
Exactly. That's what I was looking for. Get outside the comfort zone a little bit because look, once you get over a certain age, and I hate to say it, I'm heading towards 53 now, very soon. You're a different person in your 50s than you were in your 20s, and I was quieter. I was a
little more reserved.
Reserved, right? I wish I had a little bit more of me today then.
Yeah, yeah. In terms of, if somebody's thinking about maybe trying to explore entrepreneurship, build their own business, get into business for themselves, whatever it is, are there any practical steps you might recommend for them in terms of, before they do that?
Yes, go and shadow entrepreneurs. Okay. I think the best thing you could do is learn about entrepreneurship by getting into it practically, being practical about it. In other words, reading it in a textbook and learning about it in some book or class or what. Listen, I'm the first person that taught college. I would never discount education, but that's theory.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Any advice or counsel for them on how they can prepare emotionally, financially for the challenges ahead?
Yeah, you have to make sure you have enough money in the bank for probably 6 months at least, right? You have to have a cushion, and then that's up to you. That's all subjective, and how risk averse you are or not.
Yeah. Well, you said earlier how risk averse you were, so
right.
Yeah.
So you have to have some money in the bank because nothing goes 100% as planned, and you're going to have good months and you're going to have lousy months. I mean, that's all there is to it. So you always have to be prepared for the storm.
Good counsel. Couple of rapid fire questions just to wrap up. One book, podcast, or resource that's had the biggest impact on your business mindset.
I looked at that over and over. I don't know if there is one book. There were lots of things that I picked up and read. And quite frankly, I don't read loads of books. I don't have that kind of time. I really don't. Great book. Start with Why from Simon Sinek. I just like that concept of turning it inside out, the other way around, right? Why are we doing what we're doing? The Power of Nice from she just went blank on me, Robin and Linda, and when they had their agency, the Kaplan Thaler Group. I remember The Power of Nice being really intriguing in terms of, kindness does go a long way. Right? You don't have to be a jerk to be successful, right?
Yeah. And we can all use a little bit more of that sometimes.
We could use a little bit more
I know
of that.
it can get a little aggressive in
Yes,
the city.
it can. And listen, I can get aggressive at times. We all can, and we could all lose our minds, and especially now because we're like rapid fire. The pace of the world is getting so out of control that we're all feeling it. I mean, you could see it. You could see how people snap.
Yeah.
They snap at you. Like, nobody even answers questions anymore. They snap at the end. And so, like, take it easy, and everybody is in that high-strung situation, and I think it's just because the pace of the world is so fast, and as human beings, we're not robots, but these are things that I try to keep in mind and try to take a breath and relax. I don't know, some of those books helped me through, and quite frankly, I keep a book on my nightstand called Jesus Calling. And it's nothing more than a single page of devotions, little meditative kind of messages each day. It's a daily message and
Nice.
sort of grounds you into, remember, there's a lot more than what you're doing every day. Don't get so wrapped up in this.
Yeah. No, and that was my last question for you, really, was the personal habit or ritual that kind of keeps you grounded as a business owner. It sounds like Jesus Calling is really that anchor that you have.
It is, I started reading it, gosh, I don't know, a few years ago, and then I put it down, and then I remembered it again, and I put it back, I picked it back up again, probably in the past 6, 7, 8 months again, and it's like, it's helpful. It's just helpful to remind you of the bigger picture, right? And I think we all need to be reminded of the bigger picture because we're all under tremendous amount of stress. And it's funny, I went through, a friend of mine, Allison Arden, started something called the Elements of Us. And it's all about knowing enough about yourself to have stronger personal connections. That's really the gist of it. And in this session, it was, when you feel stressed, what do you do? And you had all these choices, right? And you had like dozens and dozens of choices. And it was a little overwhelming. But out of the three, I went and picked it up because of this question. And I reminded myself, when I feel stress, I lean into faith. I lean into practice, meaning whether I practice the piano or I practice good behavior, right? Or I reframe and I find the purpose in what I'm doing. Like it's a reminder of what's the bigger purpose here. It's not chasing dollars. It's just not. I mean, that's great, but
Yeah.
it's more than money.
Well, even earlier when you talked about, helping people, you could just see your entire body changed, right? Your facial expressions, everything changed, and it's just it's so nice to see. Those are the things that really anchor us, and I think that motivate us as we go forward with in business. So
Absolutely.
I'll wrap up. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you joining us.
My pleasure.
Folks, Lisa, I will try not to butcher the last name. I'll just leave it at Lisa from AAR Partners.
That's good.
I'm Parnell Woodard from the Pivot Point. We'll see you all next time.